bitch, Bob.
Hello.
You're a
Hello.
bald bitch, Bob.
Hello, niggers.
Fuck Black Meyer.
You're all
Lick
fucking
my
niggers.
John. Lick my
Hey, yo,
John.
Bob, can you suck my dick?
Hello.
Hey, yo,
Vicky, suck my dick, Vicky. Suck my dick, you old ugly bitch. You're an ugly
Hey, yo,
bitch, Vicky.
Michael. Hey, yo, Michael.
Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
Don, can you unmute?
Nigger. You're all
Can you
fucking
unmute,
niggers.
Don?
I'm hacking all your accounts right now, so make sure you stay in the meeting, okay? I already have your Zoom account information. Fucking niggers. You'll see what will happen soon. Gonna change your passwords, alright?
Hey, yo, Brenton Lorber. Can you maybe suck my dick, Brenton?
Mark, you might have to shut this one down. I'm not sure what's happening with John.
Hey, yo, Dominic.
I'm trying to remove them.
Oh, okay.
Yo, Jeffrey.
I'm not sure. I think we got rid of all of them.
Was that a performance piece?
I don't know.
Oh, they didn't hear me. I was cursing. I said poo poo.
Sorry about that, everybody. We have some people in the
pal.
waiting room. I'm not sure if I should admit them
Don't let
all.
the man. Don't let the man.
Okay, there's,
5 people just entered.
does anybody know Marietta Maglis?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of all of them then. Yeah,
Who else was in there?
Nicholas W.
I see it now. Yeah.
Did you say Marietta Magnus or Magus Magnus?
Marietta.
Joe E.
Oh, okay. Because I know who Magus Magnus is.
Oh, you think who Joe E could be Joe Elliott?
Is Mark still here?
It could be Joe Elliott. He's the one who at first informed me about the event.
Yeah. Joe E's probably good.
Okay. Emily Zipman.
Oh, Greg is good.
I don't see Greg. Anderson Popers, Greg Masters. Okay.
Did we clear out all that stuff?
Yeah, I think so. We got a couple people waiting to join. I'm not really sure who they are. Does anybody know an Emily Zipman or an Anderson Povers?
No, I would delete them.
Okay.
Boy, that hasn't happened to me a long time. The first time it happened was on, I was on the radio up at WBAI, and they were going on about Kruger Ann's for sale, and it was.
Yeah, they had one in Australia actually that they were so excited that they got Zoom bombers. Oh, finally somebody knows us. They were really excited about it. So, anyway, I think we're good. I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Mark. And sorry about the interruption there.
Well, thanks for staying with us. But it definitely will be worth it. Because tonight we have Brendan Lorber, Michael Lally, Elinor Nauen, and Larry Sawyer reading for us. But before we get to that, I'm going to introduce Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who's my co-host and received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's best known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He is also the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. Jeff's poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, the Hurricane Review, Posit, among many others. And his recent work appears in the anthologies Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. Jeff's latest work, a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, is out from Manhattan Press, and he recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize. Jeff publishes Live Mag. Jeff.
Thank you so much, Mark. Mark, I salute you for doing this for 5 years now. It's 5 lifetimes it's been. I've seen so many great poets here. Like me. Oh, hi, everybody. I'm back. Rufus here. Listen, I just wanted to read you my little haiku I wrote for the Mark Vincent's Haiku Contest. I encourage you all to join it. What's your poem called? Well, it's called post-menstrual. Atlas's javelin lights the sky. Night closes its eyes. We draw the line here. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye. What a sweetheart. Oh, I'm going to check out that contest. So I'd like to plug Doppelgangster and thank Mark again for like publishing this book, and also say I'm so happy to see these friends and poets and the lineup today, everybody coming out. This poem is it's in 3 parts. It's called Build a Wall. Let's build a wall using dumped steel from China, radioactive waste from Japan, dead journalists from Russia, and bankers from Iceland. Let's use Tokay bottles from the Pine Ridge Reservation. Let's use bleeding zombie eyes from Bollywood. Let's use Confederate flags. Let's all of us unite in spirit and all that is noble inside, and let us stand tall on top of our wall when it is done and laugh till we die. Part 2. We'll build our wall a block at a time using ivory, rhino horns, coral reefs, refugees washed up. Let's build our wall using child labor. Let's build our wall out of red ties, lipstick, vats of sperm whale sperm. Let's build this wall on melting icebergs. Let's build it on sand, for the Sandman cometh. Can you spare a tire? 3. O great wall, we will absolve ourselves in thee and thy electronic veil. Excuse me, thy curtain of surveillance, wall made of hamburgers, wall made of dog whistles, using parts of junked hearts, the mofo of all walls, riding shotgun on a hearse, lost in the place of yetness, walled city on a hillbilly, eyeless dolls blinking, wall of spookhouse mirror fear, wall of worms made of tears. Oh, God, we're in some deep stuff. Thank you very much, guys. That poem is 10 years old and it's just as relevant. Damn. And nothing's really changed there much, unfortunately. But what has changed is that we have the lovely, ever lovely Cassandra Atherton here from Canberra. And she's going to read for us next. And she's the award-winning prose poet, international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poems on the Hiroshima Maidens, with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry, an introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Cassandra Atherton.
Thank you. And what a wonderful poem to start, Jeff. Thank you. I'm going to read. I was talking last time we were together about being really thrilled to have someone talk about my poetry on the Best American Poetry blog. So I thought I'd just read one from there that was published quite a while ago. It's called Vertigo. She loves the romance of a rooftop, something about being closer to the stars. There's clarity in the air and the strange movement of light across the sky. The answers to the universe float just over the edge. She can see them, but they are beyond her outreached fingertips. The stained concrete is cold through her dress, but she edges forward, and that's how he finds her, lying on the edge, her neck reaching out like a gargoyle, her arms embracing the silence. He grabs her by the ankle like an anchor or a shackle. She whispers into the void. He wants to believe it's his name. And I have the thrilling Mark Vincenza's bio right here to read for you. So join in if you're a regular, because it's a great one. Mark Vincenz is an Anglo-Swiss-American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently The Pearl Diver of Irunmani, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, and The Mayfly Codex. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked with Unlikely Books, Ironclad with Spite and Dival, and No More Animal Poems with White Pine Press. Mark is also a prolific translator. He's translated from, everyone knows this, German, Romanian, and French. He's published 11 books of translations, most recently an Audible Blue Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist, and you know his name because Mark's made him famous around the traps, Klaus Mertz. And it won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He is currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincenz is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. He has lived all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts, overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are, you ready for it? Still more sidewalk mites, southern pine sphinxes, and thread-legged assassin bugs than bipedal hominids. I love that one, Mark. I'd love to see a thread-legged assassin bug. Have you got Horace?
I have several thread-legged assassin bugs coming up. This one's called Effervescence. Vanishing into the dark, things now heard can't be seen. Someone says, "Stop killing the dead." It's a low voice reverberating up a sheer wall. "For all you know," baritone says, "you may chance upon that phantom who will save you." And the meshes of his feet vibrate in the shadows. God, I have prayed for escape, slaked my interior from a rancorless bitter. How to drive yourself out of the earth. Still, there's something else in the dark, a splash of moonlight high above, drizzles of light. There's a turning point somewhere in the still point of the world, and somewhere above the roofs, a disturbed divinity. Don't ask for the word that might define this, says the voice. This is not what we need, baritone says. Then suddenly, in a flurry of syllables, there's another voice. Snakes rustle through the leaves. A spider crawls over your sleeve, on your toe, an insect, unlike any you've ever seen. It's a melancholy wonder, an omen perhaps, the creature that leads the way, sunflower crazed through all the transparencies, the image of a face known, the coil of restlessness, more bright now than any other. Outside, the green against the branches gleams and sparkles. The windows, as always, remain dark. On the nature of magic. Your definitive flame that stays dark. Every cry that strikes out against the grass. Every hailstorm that rages, every half moon with its head downturned for 100 years, kept in your handkerchief, tucked in your breast pocket. Or perhaps, from the shakings of the heart, a random crazy laugh that skips across the terraces, rolls over dice, pauses, hovers, swarming in sugar. It begins at dawn or daybreak. It begins at dawn or daybreak, whichever comes first. It begins in a downpour, puddles everywhere. We're skipping school today, roaming the streets, see? The old man is grinning. Anything can happen. Along the avenues, the leaves hop and sway. They do anything to raise their heads, but it's all up to the wind. For a second, nobody moves. The windows slip into their latches. Morning trembles with mousy unease. A face sculpted in sugar, the figure of a man, when we still went barefoot, all in crystals and cream. And then there's the woman in the mountain, a pastry with 1,000 layers, a pastry with 10,000 fingers. And what of that warm egg in her hand? It begins at dawn or daybreak, whichever comes first. It begins with a spiral, waves everywhere. We're skipping work today, called in sick. See, the old man is grinning. Anything can happen. Thank you, guys. And now
Excuse me a sec, Mark. I just turned off letting people unmute themselves because we have so many Zoom bombers. So if somebody wants to read, we'll have to unmute them.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks, John. And so now I'm delighted to introduce the first of our features today, who is Brendan Lorber. And Brendan is a writer, visual artist, and teacher. He's the author of If This Is Paradise, Why Are We Driving? From Subpress in 2018, and many chapbooks, most recently Unfixed Elegy and Other Poems. Brendan has had work in the American Poetry Review, Brooklyn Rail Fence, McSweeney's, The Recluse, and many other places. And since '95, he's edited Lungful magazine, which is currently in hibernation, but an amazing journal of fantastic work. And I'm sure she shall rear her head again fairly shortly. Also, Brendan hosts Over Here, a cross-generational reading series at Lofty Pigeon Books in Brooklyn, which at least one reader must live within walking distance of the bookstore. He's edited the Poetry Project newsletter, taught writing workshops for several organizations, and curated both the Zinc Bar reading series and the SEG Foundation reading series. His visual art is in the Museum of Modern Art, the Free Black Women's Library, Opus 40 Gallery, Artist Space, and many others. And it's been featured on CNN, NBC's The Today Show, and Oprah. Brendan also teaches fantasy cartography through Uncommon Goods. And by the way, I urge you to check it out. It's pretty amazing stuff. If you're interested in maps and mapping, Brendan is your guy. And Brendan lives in a little observatory in a Brooklyn neighborhood that nobody can quite find on a map. Welcome, Brendan.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you, Cassandra and Jeff, for inviting me to be part of this. And it's my first real Zoom bombing experience too, which is like, I feel like kind of a special christening. So I want to thank you for that as well. So cheers to us all. I'll just get right into it. At first, these poems were their own sweet furlough, or as Basquiat did it, the reflexive opening of a new personal phase for me alone that many have traveled before, but never together. A phrase too busy to sit and be spoken that awakens to the recurring wave of arrival. But arrival of what? Cake and candles? No. An abundance of caution, like migratory flocks of a novel species of language that comfort us, though through familiarity rather than meaning, and which roam without effort from hand to hand in the manner of a joint or communal wafer, a ritual that lends the emptiness ahead, a reassuringly solid veneer. So I'm going to be reading a handful of these sonnets from a new sequence that I've been working on called Works in Person. This is Eternal Tomorrow. And I'll dedicate this to Cassandra and anybody else who might be living in the future right now relative to Brooklyn. It's already tomorrow overseas and in your anxiety, where this poem laughs at whatever you have planned for it. A plan to go on like a fairy tale slipper, or to go on fire and not to go on like instructions for wearing a sweater over a shirt, over another shirt, all picked so the moth holes don't line up, but they do, all of those things. The way success is the worst kind of failure and the perfect conclusion of a story that leads to applause and cocktails instead of a silence so awkward it becomes an origin myth out of necessity for a new tradition, the kind that waves at you from across the room, except you're mistaken. It's not you, but you will be. My friends are beautiful but inscrutable, a kind of charming walkable downtown at war with the economic conclusions that gave rise to its own mercantile slithering, the migration of our exteriorities from a shared space through the quarantine dreams of a battered sabbatical pairs well with our tenderest organs' journey to the outside, a quick flight through the permanent volta that replaced the personal is political with the internal is public, dissected by the knife-sharp air that draws us into one another. I've been setting my clock forward every spring, hoping to get ahead of things enough to verify what time will tell, because you can't trust much of what time says about the inevitable forensics of a skull that keeps on with the grin long after it's done taking life for a spin. I grabbed a slice on St. Mark's to avoid the same mistake the day made, filling with itself until it was more night than night ever dreamt of. Some might call it gross negligence, but they're wrong. My negligence is very refined. Why not begin in tears and out of patience to preempt the dreamt ends rough edges? I've never been able to resist the seductive nonchalance of someone who listens so intensely to the pepper of their own inner interrogations instead of my arm's length badinage. It's like speaking to evidence instead of about it, which always feels like the kind of gossip that reduces the galaxy's secrets to a middle school sleepover, which maybe it is. Facts don't care if you believe them, but they do get upset when you walk in without knocking and find a fan fiction mashup at play in the back where Sherlock Holmes and Alexander Graham Bell fall in love with the same Watson. Okay, I'm going to read one that's new enough that I haven't actually typed it up yet. It's all scribbled. And I may or may not be able to read my own handwriting, which will add to the adventure of whatever's about to happen here. Only another world is possible, as this one isn't here anymore. We live in a story and in fear of its gloomy conclusion, which feels inevitable because the world already left us with an apocalyptic fondness for nostalgic dread. It's hard to recognize what you can't see and impossible to see what you think is invisible. Only the blind know the sun. Just ask any of us tightly wound heirs to the idea of a realm that seems not real enough to eat. They say sauciness is the best hunger, but what's hunger to beings born to be dinner? Beings of the future, I'm asking you out past the reduction of bad news, the spiky comfort of familiar enemies and intractable crises, all the comforts of living where you don't. The nothingness we have in common would like to yoink the name of your era for this one I'm reaching you from, insouciance, my private idiom of fear, or not fear, but a chamber where what we love gets free? No, gets subverted to endure the world as a place that only ever ends, or your own face as the thing you can never see. We can either know what we are or that we are, but not both. But either is as possible as another world is here. So here's a quick little one that is sort of overpopulated with lots of people and names. I mistook the inscription inside Fielding Dawson's copy of Eddie's book as a cast-off rupture and not record of an unbequeathed estate. The algorithm is constant in its desire to post birthday greetings to the living and the dead as though it were no different than liking Skittles over chocolate, which I do and thus don't have a soul in any theology I admire. Philip's archive of personal zodiacs and Nathaniel's inventory of private particulates, but worry that saying so in the spirit of Pessoa's First Nights in New Cities or Matt Proctor's illegal sublet will lead a future automated reader to transmit birthday wishes among us all, long after we've gone. In the calendrical wetlands of the pandemic's first week, I went to Smokey Hormel's final roundup, joined only by 4 stranded Kreutzberg painters and Miss Lulu's unemployed French accordionist, co-conspirator with Erica, the American one, all toasting the vibe core of wounded Anthropocene evenings scrubbed from the record in the otherwise empty room. Okay, now I'm going to skip ahead towards the end. I'm going to skip all of these. These are all terrible poems. I'm going to skip all of them towards the end of this sequence. These are not normal times, say the people who ruin time and want us to live in the ruins, broken and grateful for the semi-autobiographical vividness that terror lends an afternoon. Your edition of Paradise Lost may differ in its approach to the oligarch's dark arts airbrushed on the wrong side of history or the right side of a creepy van you find yourself having been tricked into, driving yourself down a boulevard of fashy schemes, but more likely just ulterior neglect as a principle come to life within its victims. The enchanted novel filament's unchecked genesis in the retort of your lungs is no more a surprise than the devil may care only about himself response. There are 0 spells that don't contain their mirror, and every mirror contains its own spells that you'd have to be a pretty fucked up sorcerer to have even heard of. The mournful fright of at the austere world's end is both real and also the disguise my half-dressed anxiety wears in the countdown to a new day one. Okay, a couple more. I know I do read awfully fast. I think it's because I grew up watching Thin Man movies and other sort of film noir things. And so I ingrained the sense that as a sort of form of time travel, you can sort of harness that ability by speaking fast so that you only register what has been said after the fact. And it also makes me seem like slightly, I don't know, less dumb. So like this jacket, it's a kind of a disguise I'm wearing. Yes, exactly. That mid-Atlantic accent that doesn't actually exist anywhere except for in like movies from 1930 to 1955. So let's see. I'll dedicate this poem to film noir anti-heroes everywhere among us. I always hoped someone would save me, but there is no me to save, nor love to have, unless you're pretty far off menu. Like the first person to have wasabi and think, okay, this is food. This decongested epiphany unveiled between glee and triage. I love the space between us as the source of inexplicable elation that sends one soaring precisely because it's groundless and occupied mostly by the surly teen in the back who half asks why. And if you have to respond, why what? You're not the person to be answering the question because nobody is. It'll take more than a golden vocabulary in the most adroit order to save the poem and for the poem to then do the work of saving us all from a presence already sequenced into a note on a pillow that says the single-celled state we emerged from would like us back. Okay, I'll read one more because I think that's what I have time to do. Do I have time for 2 more? Oh, Jeff has left, so I imagine I only have time for 1 more.
Do 2.
Okay, I'll take 2. When Jeff comes back, just tell him it's one long one that I was reading. Oh, wait, he's back. I broke it to they who thought themselves unbreakable in various states, more guru than mine, to see how they'd phrase what it is we are to each other in the traditional free-for-all of long-haul personalities, as when Lauren confirmed the ghost story I'd written was great, but only as the start of maybe 3 other things that weren't. Or Milton heard a new song a war widow sang outside the window in his head, but couldn't make out the words, only the dedication, which is to the hour when tomorrow gets up to announce what we are to the drowned shadow this day has become, staring up from the wrong side of a frozen lake. My friends all hate me, and my poems wish they'd been written by one of them or by a stranger who wrote screenplays or just enormous numbers on a piece of paper they then passed across the desk saying, "This is what I require for my services." And the very last one I'll read, which I'll continue to read too quickly, is here we go. It's this. I've skipped all the titles just because I feel like they slow us down. So I'm not going to start the sourdough yoga in a sworn-at mellow vein of whatever self-care goes by on the day's week off I wore in a suit in the dream, but it wasn't mine. None of these dreams are. Going to let nostalgia be the country house we summer in, not after last time we settled into the bathtub just as the real owners got home. To my face, I'm like a losing scratch-off at rest outside the bodega. You know what I mean. I mean, if you didn't, then how did we both end up hiding in the same senator's $1 million fridge? We've all loved someone who later went all Rolf in The Sound of Music, or preheated the lockdown affirmation baker within ourselves until whatever's good in us is still no good at making cute masks from canceled airplane tickets, but is okay adjacent with still having enough breath to mutter sweet nothings under. So thank you all so much.
Bravo, how beautiful.
And now you can mute me before I say anything terrible.
Just say it fast.
Sorry, I was not a made co-host until this moment, so I was unable to unmute myself. So thank you so much, Brendan. That was a great reading. Really appreciated it. And next we hear from Michael Lally, who is a legend of script and screen. His most recent books are Another Way to Play, Poems 1960 to 2017, 7 stories, press, and Say It Again, an autobiography in sonnets from Beltway Editions this year. And he writes, I live in upstate New York contentedly despite Parkinson's and other challenges, and with the help of my caregivers and housemates, my son Miles Lally and his partner Hannah Bracken, I can go on. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Please go on.
Yeah, I will. Getting there. Valenta. I'm staring into my dinner bowl, trying to remember the name of the main ingredient, but can't. I'm pretty sure it begins with a P. It's mushy, like most of my food these days, chopped fine or pureed. To make it easier for my Parkinson's tightening jaw to chew. Not pablum, not porridge. I ate it last night too and knew its name then, like I knew the right answers on Jeopardy most of the time till the last few years. And suddenly I'm thinking of Iron Mike, my Irish immigrant grandfather, who lived down the street I was on one day in the 1950s when my cousin Mary Lynn, who lived next door, unexpectedly ran out of our grandparents' house calling to me to come in and see our grandpa because he was dying, and I did, and he was, as we watched him exhale one last time with a gurgle sound my aunt called the death rattle. And though she was the only Protestant in our clan, suggested we all kneel and say the rosary. And we did. And Not many months later, our Irish immigrant widowed grandma took to her bed, now at her only daughter's home. Her only other daughter died as an infant in the 1918 so-called Spanish flu pandemic. The rest of her 8 were boys. And as I sat by her shriveled body, she told me she had to go because she could hear her late husband giving the angels hell for not making his scrapple the way he likes. And I believed she was telling the truth, as I then believed in an actual place called heaven. And 2, after she passed, was me still wondering how did a dish associated with the Pennsylvania Dutch become an Irishman's favorite. And I'm finishing the last of the P-word dish. I still am literally drawing a blank trying to remember and spend the day frustratedly trying to recall but can't. And then eating cereal the next morning, it comes to me. Polenta, how could the memory that friends and clan relied on before the internet for the answers to questions bugging them? Like, what was the name of whatever they couldn't recall? And maybe now it's not needed anymore. The universe is allowing it all to slowly slip away like my Irish grandparents did so long ago. Have I told you this before? I wrote that days ago. And this one I wrote a couple of years ago, just before I turned 80, when the Parkinson's was displaying itself very clearly. It's called I Meant To, and sorry that some of you already know it. Elaine chose it for a Best American Poetry Anthology, I think for 2023. I meant to put those 63 names and email addresses in the BCC blind copy space, not the CC copy space. I meant to send it to him, not her. I meant to swallow, not drool on the computer, my lap, your sleeve, my arm, the floor, that first edition in the drawer. I meant to walk and move with that feline grace someone once said I had, not wobble and stagger like an old wino. I meant to hit the Y, not the T, the H, not the G, the B, not the V, return, not send, amends, not amen. I meant to stand up, straight, not bend, to sit upright, not slouch, to not fall down and get stuck between the couch and a hot pipe that burned my back, like the prolonged sting of a fierce slap. I meant to stay 29 or 49, not be 79, turning 80 in May, this way, drooling and stumbling, and I'm unable to make a fist with my right hand or grasp a utensil in the proper way, but instead need foam additions to the handles for my 1 or 2 fingers that can still curl without help. I meant to be the exception to obviously aging or a long gone legend by now. Not a bent over drooling old man who still often feels like a woman inside. But I'll accept what I'm left with for as long as I can and still be grateful for all that I've been and am. Thank you.
Michael, that was so awesome. You have such a style you've built. Really strong. Just you take the real stuff and you make these amazing Mobius strip bricks, a mansion palace for us to walk through. Thank you so much. I was going to say too, I'll never forget you in Call of the Wild. Michael played the dog whisperer. Oh, can't hear you now, Michael. And we've lost Larry. Michael, thank you so much. We have lost Larry. Michael. Yeah, Larry, I think got spammed off or something. So we're trying to get Larry back. And so another old friend of Michael's and mine and Brendan's here is Elinor Nauen. And Elinor Nauen has been a fixture on the scene. She's been a board member of the Poetry Project for years. Her books include My Marriage, A to Z, A Big City Romance, So Late Into the Night, Cars, and Other Poems, her epic, American Guys, and as an editor, Ladies, Start Your Engines, Women Writers on Cars and the Road from Faber and Faber in 1997. And Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, Women Writers on Baseball, Faber and Faber, 1994. Her work has appeared in New American Writing, Fiction, Exquisite Corpse, The World, Cough, which you co-edited, I think, with Maggie Dubree, who we lost also was here, Elysian Fields Quarterly, Athlon, Up Late, the great anthology that Andre Codrescu put together for 4 stories, national and also a National Endowment for the Humanities magazine, American Book Review, and other magazines and anthologies. Please welcome the wonderful Elinor Nauen.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks everybody. It's really great to see a lot of you that I don't see in person very often. Den store appelsinen. Jeg farger har et mitt rot, fordi basseballens rudtapper, Rusty Staub og Red Shendienst var kjent for å være fine, og jeg vil bli kjent som en kjempefin spiller. The Big Orange. I dyed my hair red because baseball's redheads, Rusty Staub and Red Shendienst, were known for being nice, and I want to be known for being a great infielder. Cursing, that was Norwegian, by the way. Cursing in Norwegian. Honestly, I didn't think you could swear på norsk. Those liberal, uptight Norman, what did they have to cuss about? Honestly, Elle, don't be a dritzek. Well, okay, but it doesn't sound like bad language. I mean, I can believe en hjem is a home and milk is milk, but canola, muka sharing, laken samba, that's just cute. Sheet dancing. Let's invent the mother rule, Morse Reglan. Can I say it to your mom? Wait, what? I can't make up a Norwegian word? Hvorfor ikke? Why not? If I can't swear, I can't talk. You flip-flop, flat top. On Joe's birthday, a collaboration with Steve Carey, if only. Or stunned with numerous local papers where the buttered world has carried us, the ash fallen off the cigarette. In days so careless, we had millions of health in the bank, just as I dreamt it, the dream of restoration. Upstairs, the man has come back, and all I can do is step over a fluttering of clues, a calendar of conditions for reappearance. It is green all around. There is love all around in a northern town. The short night and long day of 100 billion neurons that make me twitch like a one-eyed cat sleeping in a seafood store, that turn a dot into a pask, a drop into a man. 100 billion neurons run in every direction. Some lope like a sleepy heifer, some gallop like a spooked bull, some tangle and fall. 100 billion neurons, each a spark of conviction, you to you, to you, to you. Personal history. I had never been in a city before I packed up my belongings in 2 paper bags and drove 1,000 miles to spend the rest of my life in New York. I was the smartest and dumbest girl in my 8th grade class. Being dumb never got me into trouble, but being smart did every day. When he saw her in a tight teal fish scale dress, he knew he had to spill a drink on her. I come from the prairie. My lies are long. High in November. Cheery as a lamb, Johnny toddles by and touzles my hair. And I'm back in my first months in New York, my empty apartment, now with so much art and books and breathing. The light fixture I thought was a gas outlet. Scared to touch it, I didn't see my walls for years. One 4th of July, Brody sat on the middle part of an aqua sectional couch, the only piece I had, grilling over his shoulder on the fire escape in the hibachi he'd brought. Later, I pushed that couch out the window. I found broken glass in a jar of bouillon powder, and the company, by way of apology, sent me a case of caviar. I opened my tenement icebox one day to nothing but caviar and decided to throw a cocktail party. I bought a blender and made a drink of honeydew melon and vodka. I eat cookies with specks of salt and kiss Johnny on his way to lie down and watch something that makes him laugh. I look at Biala's flowers every day, and every day I'm abashed to see them. Just like Ollie, my 40 years older boyfriend, who I loved so much, I managed to get old, being the same old fucked up me. East Village Tales. How'd you get thrown out of so many laundromats? He asked, as though that were an accomplishment. They think I'm not serious because I'm not in debt. Here in the Nabe, we live the lives we choose. That's why we live here. I was the meanest girl in Sioux Falls, and I'm the nicest girl in New York, which is only the difference between my 2 hometowns. He's a happy man, but I can make him happier. A wall of no, 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 no. Brick upon brick of refusal to have kids, to get big job, to stay in college or Sioux Falls or silent. Saying no was supposed to end in a big yes, but instead ended in a broken wall. I thought I'd come around again to being 19 and leap up an unlined jack-in-a-box. Real life is only in books. Here I am, and still am, saying no. I'm too old to be wrong, I said in 1996. For some reason, this next one made me think of you, Michael. An old story. When I didn't give the young man money, he said, "Is it because I'm black and you a old white lady?" And I said, "That's right, fuck off." And when I told this to a guy I know, not you, Michael, he told me a story about a girl he once lived with who, he said, made the thugs on the block back off by screaming, "You fucking pussies," her tininess making her curses louder. He found a story of his own to top, correct, and instruct me. Fuck off, you fucking pussy. And I'm just going to read one more. And it's called I Rebuke, and it has an epigraph from somebody described as conservative pastor, Tim Remington of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And this was in the New York Times on January 14th, 2021. And what conservative pastor Tim Remington of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho said was, I rebuke the news in the name of Jesus. We ask that this false garbage come to an end. I rebuke the news in the name of Jesus. We ask that this false garbage come to an end. I rebuke the kitchen in the name of cleanliness. I rebuke my foot in the name of Fluvog. I rebuke the news in the name of the pennant-winning Yankees. I rebuke my husband in the name of marriage. I ask that this false dinner come to an end. I ask that this false body come to an end. I ask that my husband take out the garbage. I ask that my husband pick up milk, not fake milk, not goat's milk, not almond milk. I rebuke fake milk. I rebuke goat's milk. I rebuke almond milk. This false garbage, this false garage. I rebuke my car. I rebuke my bike. I rebuke my watch. I rebuke the news in the name of warm socks. I rebuke the queue in the name of haste. I rebuke the new in the name of memory. I rebuke the dew in the name of snow. I rebuke the snow in the name of blizzard. I rebuke silence. I ask that you treat me like a duchess. I ask that you give me ice cream and biscuits and a hearty handshake. I rebuke handshaking in the name of COVID. I rebuke COVID in the name of slow breathing. I revoke breathing. I revoke walking. I revoke drugs are whack. I rebuke the war on drugs. I revolt. I remember. I wish. I ask that garbage come to an end. I ask that rebuke come to an end. I ask that Tim Remington come to an end. Thank y'all.
Yay. Elinor. Wow, what a tour de force. I unrebuke you. That was so great. Real legend of the Lower East Side there. Now, Larry, and I think Maggie Debris and maybe some other people got scared off. I can't get Larry back. I looked on his Facebook page and it says, whoa, just got face-bombed by racist. Or Zoom bombed. So, but I am going to read a poem of his before we go on with John and our open readings. This poem is in Live Mag. And Larry Sawyer, excuse me, he's been the editor of Milk Mag for years, and he also co-hosted or curated and hosted the Myopic Poetry Series in Chicago for years, was the co-director of the Chicago School of Poetics. He is now living in Toronto, and his books include Unable to Fully California, Breaking Lorca, and Vertigo Diary. This poem is called Dealer by Larry Sawyer. My eyes sprout 1,000 buds at the sight of you as you burst into flame and look like a frightened doe there in the middle of a forest of paychecks. My phone is on Stone Age as we sit inside a baggie of silence. I clear my throat and it sounds like a siren. My reflection in a mirror resembles a werewolf. I have 2 large stereo speakers for hands. I lounge on the couch surrounded by canaries, singing, who brought you here and why? But my ears hear nothing but the puking guns. The smoothness of that chamber is my secret cathedral, emerging from daylight's barrel, some new man. And that is Larry Sawyer. Sorry that Larry he was looking forward to it too. And now one of our co-hosts, the technical wizard, John Wessick. John is a regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. He's published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70 Review, Lowestoft Chronicle, New Verse News, Patterson Literary Review, Pearl, Pyrene's Fountain, Slipstream, Space and Time, and Underside Stories. His most recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. John Wessick.
Hi, gee, thanks everybody. I kind of recently fought my way through two textbooks called Student-Friendly Quantum Field Theory about the standard model of particle physics and such. So this is a poem about that stuff. It's called Over Easy. It's easy for electrons to be electrons, to solve equations Nobel Prize winners can only estimate. Matter's building blocks should be simple as toast, but there are infinities in the butter dish, complications in the jam. Start the day with a hearty S matrix. Just add a teaspoon of coffee to 6 pages of integrals and sweep broken tortilla chips from the Mexican hat potential off the counter. Renormalize bacon before firing up the griddle and cook Lagrangian densities over easy. A trillion electrons laugh at the Dyson expansion, time-ordered operators, and Wick's theorem as graduate students choke down artery-clogging textbooks.
That was an awesome one. Thank you, John, and thank you for doing such a great job with the Zoom bombers, because we're just like, oh my God. So appreciate your technical skills. I chucked a few out too, so I feel good. Feel good about myself today. So we have an incredible open, and we are going to start with someone we love at Lit Balm and haven't seen her for a little while read. She's been around though, watching the shows. We have Shira, who is up first. So I think we have to unmute Shira. John, you have to help me with the open because we'll have to unmute each person one at a time. So Shira, John is, I think, sending you a message to unmute.
He did. I got it.
Right. Perfect.
Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Well, I'm reading a poem tonight from a collection. I haven't decided which poem. Do you want the whole Mofongo, a long poem, or do you want like a really short poem tonight? What do you
Probably
think?
a shorter one because we've got about 6 people on the open today.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm reading from a collection that should be in print in a second or two, published by Mad Hat Press. Yay, Mad Hat. And Jose and I are delighted to be in the company of such prestigious poets as Mark has published in his press. So I'm going to read the first poem because it is, well, like Genesis, it's the first poem, and it's the first poem of a book that's just being published. So I'm going to read it. Eminences by Jose Enrique Damange. To Amelia Brea in passing. The imminences of things touches and dislocates fiction. A transparent time of two faces, a silence sliced by light. The imminence in the verb, where you soak through dauntless versions of brief, tender affections, of ceaseless convergences. The imminence of chaos, the certainty in visions beyond, or in ruptures afterward, or in traces of distances still close by. The imminence of wonder in those curls that long for eternity, galloping in descent toward that point where innocence is naked. The imminence in things, and at least in the word, in order to appear perpetual. That's it. Thank you.
It was so good. We all wanted more, actually, but it was fantastic. And congratulations on the book.
Oh,
It's
yes,
so
thank you. Yes, great. Thanks so much, Hassan. Thank
It's
you. And thank you for
wonderful.
reading the text before it went to the printers. Thank you.
And you look amazing. Thank you for reading for us. We love it when you read.
Oh,
Please
thank
come back
you.
and read another
I
one.
will come back. Yes, I certainly will. Thanks.
Listen, Cassandra, we're trying to get John back. I mean, Larry back here. So let's do those and we'll see if we can get his email over to John. He couldn't get back in. We need to send him the link again or something. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
we'll keep going with the open, and if he gets back in, we'll break it and listen to him. Thanks for letting me know. We have the man himself in the chair. We have DeWitt. We love him. He's not quite as autumnal today with his choice of hoodie. I can't quite see, but he's always here and he always has something brilliant for us. So DeWitt, what have we got this week?
We've got advice for midlife daughter and son.
Awesome. I love this one. So can't wait.
Asked for life advice. I can only respond to my adult daughter with Polonius's platitude. To thine own self be true. A hug, and then admit to confusion. Whatever a self is it personhood, soul, nature, being, heart, body, psyche, talent, appetite, conscience, purpose? I want self-realization for both daughter and son, self-confidence as opposed to despair, betrayal, or neglect. I fear the condition that W.H. Auden named West's disease in honor of Nathaniel West's cautionary tales, where people fail to translate wishes based on self-hatred into desires based on self-acceptance and to grow. Your own best friend, but also get over yourself. Beware narcissism, vanity, and short-circuiting of the mirror stage. What is I to thou? Cultivate your nature and spirit. Nurture gifts. In my daughter's case, her generosity, belief in parenting, teaching, public service, and love of justice, as well as her making art and writing. Or my son's dedication to family and friends, his sense of humor, decency, love of sports, cooking, challenges of corporate work, and anxiety about giving his wife and daughter the best lives possible in a world with nightmares at the door. We have our public selves and selfies, websites and CVs, our list of friends, our memoirs and autobiographies. We advertise ourselves, or try to. I think of my businessman father, the recovering alcoholic who struggled to outlive his private shame, and of my mother who said she had tried to design her life, the first third for family, the second for world, the third, finally, for self. Except she'd run out of time for the third. In 1926, her father had recommended tenacity and self-reliance in a Brooklyn Magazine interview. To succeed, be a self-starter. Compounds of self fills 7 columns in Webster's. Self-made, sufficient, satisfied, harm, reproach, pity, and forgiveness. We contrast public selves with private, conscious with somatic, ego with id. Stereotyped, we risk mistaken ID. You've got the wrong person. It wasn't me. It was the drugs, not who I am. I don't know what got into me. We self-project. Do unto others. We suffer disorders. Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, psychoses, and amnesia. We suffer breakdowns and depression, seek to escape or dull pain, lose ourselves to addictions, to temporary escapes and reliefs. Need warnings, company, and help. Others we can trust. Think of Lear's inner storm. Oh, let me not go mad. I'm more sinned against than sinning. Or, feminists ask, his daughter's cruelty a payback for abuse? So what's your story? Othello's is revised by Iago, who refuses to wear heart on sleeve or offer motives. But you know, you know. Othello, meanwhile, delivers self-judgment as one who loved not wisely, but too well. Hamlet's story is left to Horatio to tell, for fear that others may degrade his cause. Learn from your mistakes. Win your life by losing it. Take roads less traveled by. Be all that you can be. Heed young Keats with his veil of soul-making, or Plato with his daemon, revealed by becoming. Individualists join in human chain. Blind Borges saw Shakespeare as no one at all, as was Borges himself to himself.
Thank you. That's the best braided poem ever. I don't know how you managed to entwine all those narratives and all those intertexts so perfectly. It's amazing. So we love it. Do it. Always love you on the open. Next, we have a new person, Vicky. Vicky, have you got something for us for the open? We love new people.
Hi there. Well, I've got another of the sea shanties. So this is, see if I can flip the screen. Yeah, sea shanty number 1. Flying high in the amber sky, Astrid's microchips compute her destruction. Laughter, camera clicks, sound from the yacht. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. 1, 2, 3, as they hurl her away. Hey ho, and up she rises. It's the funniest thing ever. No more fun for you, boys. My silicone arms and legs wave goodbye, boys. But I'll still be here in 500 years, her circuit boards want to shout. Better than plastic, though at least I'm chemically stable, not toxic. Are you? Isn't that the funniest thing ever?
Thank you so much. I'd forgotten your sea shanties, of course. We love your sea shanties. Please give us some more in the future. We love to hear them. We should set them to music sometime, though, I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have the inimitable Kurt Lovelace, who is going to read for us today. Kurt, what have you got? Is he? Yes, we can hear you. Hooray.
I wasn't sure because I'm adjusting this equipment here, so I was not sure what was going to happen. Okay, there. Is it clear? Okay.
Super clear.
Good. Thank you for letting me read. This poem is, I think, due an anthology in Australia next year called Ricochet, and so I did a poem titled Ricochet. In the literature of human violence, hundreds of years from now, will there still be occasion to reference the soft splatter of a child, as is now our daily referendum in America, to type up the wet, red details of a quick bullet's trajectory out from an easily obtained barrel into the round, bright eyes of a small face? Yeats would have been among the children, visiting them at school today. He'd have been found, his great man's body wrapped around, a few smaller hands and feet dangling out. He'd not have had to think on it. A wild swan, frantic, the wings of its arms spread wide apart, draping its babies from the echoing plunder.
Thank you. It's so powerful and wonderful to hear you read it. Yes, it's going to be fabulous in the anthology Ricochet. But yeah, very, very moving. Thank you so much. Next, we have Mike. We love Mike. He used to be in his like kind of 3D strange futuristic garage, and now he still has some futuristic background. So we love him. Mike, you're back.
Thank you, Cassandra, and thanks for asking me to read. I have a short poem that I wrote fairly recently. It's called Flawed. Flawed, by the way, is the name of a friend's gallery to be. It should be open in the spring. He's fairly convinced everything's a bit flawed, and that seemed to fit. So here we go. Observe the orange. First a bud, then a flower. Green at once, then through the rind, a rising tide blends colors of a familiar kind. A sweetening sphere, perfect for a day or two, then soft, then brown, then dry and hard. Sweet arrogance, the imperfection of a perfect time to peel and eat that will not last. Thank you.
So bittersweet. You always put some really moving little bit at the end, and it kind of gets into my heart and twists it up a little bit. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been fabulous to have you back. Now, I believe that we've got Larry back, so we're going to have to wait for the awesome duo of Cindy and Bob because they closed the show, so we can't do them prematurely. We'll have to do Larry first. Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Cassandra. You're such a great host. Thank you, Larry. I'm so sorry about this. Larry is down there we finally got him on. He got cut off at the beginning because he was Zoom bombing us and he's saying naughty things. So, no, it wasn't. I'm kidding. But it wasn't his fault at all, no matter what I told you earlier. But we're so glad he's here. Larry, look, here's Michael Lally, Elinor Nauen, Brendan Lorber, your sweet host, Mark Vincennes, John Wessick, and Cassandra Atherton. My girlfriend, Lori Ortiz, is still here. Mike Foles, DeWitt Henry, Karen Newberg, Bill Considine, Shira, and Bob Heeman. You're still going to hear a couple of us, and now we get to hear you. So glad you're here. And John, if you could unmute Larry now at this point.
I don't see him in the list, Jeffrey.
Is he definitely here? Jeff? You're muted, Jeff.
Yeah, you're muted, Jeff.
Oh, sorry. There he is. Look, Lena, the handsome one.
Oh, down the bottom. I can do it. Ask to unmute. Hey, sorry. I think we were looking for
Larry Sawyer.
All right. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I am on the backup laptop. This thing has like 3% power, so I'll make it quick. Thanks, everyone, for having me. So how much time do I have? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah. We
10?
usually say about
Okay.
8 to 10. Yeah.
Great. So these are fairly recent poems. My next book, just to mention that, will be published next year on Guernica Editions here in Toronto. This one's called In My Irritable Youth. I was walking around inside myself one summer and couldn't get out. There were no maps of adulthood, so I foraged for food like an animal. I tried to explain my behavior by saying, aren't we all just animals? One of my teachers said, you mean metaphorically? I shout literally and realistically. In my irritable youth, I was hexagonal. 35 years later, you mean metaphorically, says every day of adulthood. And to adulthood, I respond, grow up. This one's called Rotus Square. Poetry is the alpha and the omega, even if it isn't. Even reminded not, and while we're unawares. Orchestrated even and only for the frisson of his insistence on solo silicipicis, the ancient Roman instrument which doesn't exist, plays on behind unheard eyes. We're all far too acrostic and so very world. Thank you. This one's called Wearing Strange Paisley. Our months galloped off, escaped the stable, running across the hills. We could not stop them, although we tried. Each month was so beautiful, hair dripping brown and lustrous. Especially January I loved, and rode each and every ice until spring would begin flying in, as if the unbelievable poems written about these events, describing spring as flying, ridiculous. But there it was, we were together, two beat detectives, dissident and scuppered, at the end of the year, in these fields, that pasture, this barn, all empty, and now a bent, beautiful silence. Thank you so much. Just a couple more. Recently, I was in Portugal, which was, I expected it to be beautiful, but it was unbelievably delightful, Portugal. O streets of Lisbon, like Ouroboros, you eat your own tail. One morning, walking a cobblestone loop along the snake's back, the poet takes notice. A baker takes notice, the bricklayer, banker, and stylist and attorney notice too, each with a particular seat waiting just for them on a trolley that somehow hovers in the sunlight. On this morning, I'm baked like a loaf, but with a snake inside, remember? Its tail is being eaten, but this snake is really smiling along with everyone else, which is nice. This kind of just continues. This one's called Still. Still, I parachute in on my feelings just to see how they're doing. I find them inside a box wrapped in a bearskin rug with a golden 1950s typewriter. Naturally, I sit down to write something on this elegant typewriter inside my own mind. Wouldn't you? I should hope so. Anyway, where are the pliers? I need the twilight. I'm reading maybe faster than I normally would because I was waiting so long to get into the Zoom meeting. So I'm just like bit overly excited. I'm usually despondent when I write poetry, so I just want you all to know that. This one's called Wilderness. Already one metaphor won't allow another to so quickly, or these metaphors pile up like trains, jump the tracks. Our union meeting has now resumed, thank God. What is discussed is as important as the eyes of a mother upon her metropolis. The city won't eat and throws a bowl filled with lumpy skyscrapers at a wall made only of summer air. Off in the distance, a tree silently dissolving there. Just two more. This one's called You Get Paid. You get paid in ducks, in size, in mosquitoes, but it was worth it. Shall we gather at the river? The definition of happiness is watching. This is my last one. Filled with the memory of your porcelain abandonment, I am your animal filled with light. My eyes are yellow flame. In the night, I lurk among the flowers where they lie sleeping. Inside each shadow, there is an appointment that I am keeping. I enter the dark and sit on a chair made only of the evening air. When the moon rises, I reach up to touch it. Then I'll chop off summer with a hatchet. Our train arrives at midnight. Let's catch it. Thank you.
Yay. That was awesome, Larry.
Thanks for having me.
It was more than worth the wait. You are a poet animal filled with light. Now, I loved the poems. Thank you so much for persisting, because it was a joy to hear you. And we like the slightly uplifted version, even if you're normally despondent when you write. It was
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We are going to finish with the terrible twosome, Cindy and Bob. How much do we love these two? So Cindy's going to go first, and she is a Brooklyn badass poet. She's a political Brooklyn badass poet. Cindy, show us your hat and let's hear a poem.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm voting for Trump on November 5th. But tonight you get two for the price of one. I'm going to read a collaborative poem between me and the intrepid Bob Heeman. It's from our book, The Number 5 is Always Suspect. He did the collage for it, and it's amazing. And we alternated lines. It's a 14-line poem. It's number 23 in the book. On All Hallows Eve, the poets dress up like poets and try to imagine they are nothing more than forgotten owls, hooting and hollering their wise words from the branches as they watch the black cats disappear into
the underbrush. The poets dress up like Edgar Allan Poe, then put on owl hats to scare the dreamers. That should really be owl heads, to scare the dreamers. But the experimental poets refuse to be owls, preferring instead to dress like algebraic equations. Oh, don't try to figure out the calculus of poets. Too often it's no more than barn plus 5 and algorithms of darkness in an infinite limit, with the only correct answer a smaller circle. On All Hallows Eve, the poets don't need masks. Their words can hide them or reveal them. Thank you.
Amazing. I forgot Halloween was coming up. We don't really celebrate it in Australia, so I'm excited to one day be in America for Halloween. But very topical and such fun. I would love to dress up as a poet for Halloween. I love that idea. We have Bob next. I don't know about the lighting in his lounge room. It always seems to be kind of slightly greeny tinged and mysterious. I think he likes it that way. And I always say whatever Bob has to say in this last moment of Lit Balm is something I take with me for the rest of my Sunday. So Bob, what have you got? Bit of tap dancing, bit of information, bit of not information. What do we got? I think you're on, hang on, you're on mute. So you got to wait for John to help you unmute, I think.
Okay, now I am.
Great to hear you.
Okay, this is a very old poem, but appropriate for Halloween approaching, I think. So, and I'm going to read it off my screen because my printer isn't working. Music. There is no song at all that can carry the ball the way you do. I can't understand how the bloody red hand works its voodoo. It moves in the air, making circles and squares and curved lines. The clouds move away, and all through the day I feel fine. And then it is night, and a terrible fright starts to grow. A breeze moves the leaves, and a terrible wind starts to blow. And although it is August, it feels like it's 20 below. And out on the lake, a dead man is starting to row. He's coming for us, there's no doubt at all in our minds. He's moldy and old and looks like he's probably blind. He stumbles and crawls up onto the bank. He moves straight ahead, his face it is blank and uncaring. He's a man who could stand at the edge of the sand without staring.
Well, that's a creepy way to end, but I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Not end of a Lit Balm until we hear your dulcet tones. So back to you, Mark.
Well, thank you so much, guys. It was a fantastic reading today. Thank you, Larry, Michael, Brendan, and Elinor. Fantastic reading. And very soon hereafter, on November 2nd, we have Leslie Wheeler, Catherine Whitcomb, Bern Salman, Holiday Mason, and Sasha Steenson. So please join us for that. In the meantime, I'm going to close this little word fest with a poem called The Riddle Hits You in the Face. And it goes like this. With contempt, you see, the days amount to groceries, to-do lists, cardboard houses, and sheets of plastic. This much is certain. Too much of the same causes one to overheat. Everybody's confession is everyone else's. You're free to answer any question with the ennui of disbelief. Believe me, the days don't amount to much more than this, but your feet are soft. You catch my breath like a trapdoor. You look back to the day the earth stood still. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful reading, and hope to see you next week. Lots of love, poetry, and ennui.